We've got a full agenda. If you'll take your seats. Just a quick housekeeping. We are going to probably move House File 209 to the end of the agenda, just in case we run out of time. But I wanted to gauge the audience to make sure no one has driven through this weather to testify on House File 209, have they? I'd heard there was no testimony, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we're going to move that to the end of the agenda if we get to it. And then, let's see here. Has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move approval of the minutes from February 19th with a suggestion that there be a technical change to show the action when you move to lay over a bill for possible inclusion. I think we need the action stated that you laid the bill over. Instead of just the motion, I think you need an action, like you have when the motion prevailed when you're sending it. It's just a suggestion for a technical change.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure that's noted. So Representative Erickson has moved the approval of the minutes for Tuesday, February 19th with that technical correction. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion prevails and the minutes for the Tuesday, February 19th are approved. We have Representative Jurgens' bill up first. I'm looking around and he's right here. Thank you. As he's coming up, would a member like to move Representative Jurgens' bill before the committee? Representative Erickson.
Madam Chair, I will move House File 55, and I'm not sure where you're intending to send it.
Thank you. I'm intending to lay it over for possible inclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Jurgens, your bill has been moved before the committee. Would you like to state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, and then we'll get to your testifiers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Tony Jurgens, State Representative, and here today to present to you House File 55. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the hearing on this. Some of you may recall from last year, we presented this bill in this committee, and it was included in the omnibus bill. During the walkthrough of the Education Omnibus Bill, then Commissioner Cassellius expressed that their support for this provision, thanked us on behalf of the governor for including it. Unfortunately, it was vetoed as part of the overall omnibus bill, and so that's why I'm back here today. The language in the bill is the same as it was last year. This is the bill that we refer to as the lunch shaming bill. You might recall from approximately November of 2017, there were news reports from Stewartville, Minnesota school district where students were experiencing, they would get to the lunch line and not have any money or enough money in their lunch account, and their lunches were being dumped in the garbage, which was already against state law. But we felt that we needed to tighten that up a little bit, and that's what this bill does. It specifically lists things like that can't be done, publicly shaming a student, and that's really the whole intent behind this. My feeling is that while the school districts deserve to be paid for those lunch meals, that's a transaction that should be done between the school district and the parents and not the kids. So in a nutshell, that is what this bill does. In addition to requiring the school districts to put their school lunch policy on their website so that parents can view that and understand what the policy is. Some school districts have what they call an angel account where if the child doesn't have money in their lunch account, the school can take money out of this angel account to feed the kids, and some school districts have their policy where they will have an alternative lunch, and we just want to make sure that is stated so that the parents know what they can expect from their school district. So with that, I know we have some testifiers, but in the interest of time, I'll conclude my statement for now.
All right. Would whoever would like to testify first, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. My name is Jessica Webster. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid, and I want to thank Representative Jurgens for bringing this bill. We support this bill and have supported it in the past, and also Representative Erickson and other members of the committee who have also worked to kind of strengthen these protections for students. Legal Aid and Hunger Solutions Minnesota have been working on the issue of lunch shaming for many years. We actually, I believe, started working on this in 2011, 2012. Minnesota was really at the forefront of starting to address lunch shaming. And so I think we've been disappointed to see that there's still some districts that are still using some of these practices. Representative Jurgens mentioned Stewartville, where 143 lunches were dumped. When those lunches were dumped, Legal Aid did a data practices request to all districts, again, asking for written policies about what happens when a child comes to the lunch counter without money or has a lunch debt. And we found that, I think since 2011, 2012, many schools have shifted away from using these shaming practices. Many schools have adopted best practices. They are attempting to, many schools feed children the hot lunch of the day, no matter what. And so that was really heartening. But we came across written policies that still prohibited children from participating in graduation ceremonies, wouldn't allow children to pick up caps and gowns if they had a lunch debt. There was even one school with a progressive discipline policy for a child that attempted to purchase lunch if they had a debt, with detention and suspension, withholding the ability to participate in field trips and special events. And so I think, as Representative Jurgens said, Legal Aid strongly believes that this is a transaction that needs to take place between adults. To date, Legal Aid hasn't opposed collection. Many districts use collection on families, and that's hard for us. We don't love collection. We don't love collection on low-income families for something that should be a basic need for kids. But to us, collection is a way to keep the transaction between adults, and so we haven't really addressed changing that at this time. So we appreciate your support. This bill perhaps doesn't go as far as advocates would like. We still have some heartburn about cheese sandwiches and some of the other practices, but for now, I think this is a good start, and we can continue to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Webster. And one more testifier? Please
Thank
state
you,
your name for the record
Madam
and
Chair,
proceed.
members of the committee. My name is Colleen Moriarty, and I am the Executive Director of Hunger Solutions Minnesota. As a leader of a statewide anti-hunger organization, in 2014, when this bill originally came before the legislature at the urging of the governor, I was proud as a Minnesotan to see that we were a leader in addressing the issue of lunch shaming. And when it passed as legislation to ensure that reminders of lunch payments would not stigmatize or demean students who participated in the free school lunch programs. Yet some students are still denied access to the same nutritious meal as other students. They're given instead a substitute meal, like a cheese sandwich. Children should never have their lunches taken away or dumped. This bill does a lot to address the issue by requiring schools to adopt and post a school meal policy, even one that includes collection, prohibiting schools from denying school lunch to a student who qualifies for free or reduced lunch, regardless of whether the student has an outstanding balance in the student meal account for any reason, and requiring schools to provide meals to participating students in a respectful manner that conforms with the school meals policy. I think this is absolutely the least we can do to assure that children have the access to a nutritious meal. I think that it's a right of students when they come to school that their expectation of not being shamed or not being humiliated in front of staff or in front of their fellow students is an absolute must. I encourage you to support this bill, and I've been very honored to work with you and with Legal Aid to bring forward this issue. Please help us stop these demeaning practices. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Moriarty. I'm going to open it up to the questions. Any member questions? Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know if it's a question or more of a comment. I think this is a great bill, and I really appreciate it. I just had an idea, and as a parent, I have kids in public school, and we pay for lunches for our students online, so I can pay in advance a certain amount. And I've always wondered, wouldn't it be possible if I could opt to pay more to help other children who can't pay for lunch? So it's just something it seems with the online system that maybe that would be a possibility.
Representative Jurgens.
Madam Chair, thank you, Representative. It's a great idea, and I think that that is something that I know there are several different programs that the school districts use to track their school lunch program, and I'm sure that they could make those systems available to do that. It would be up to the school district to implement it. There's nothing in this bill that prevents that from happening now.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience like to testify? Doesn't look like it. Representative Jurgens, final word.
Final comments. Thanks again for hearing my bill today and for those that helped me put this bill together. When we first started the process with this bill, it was a lot more restrictive, and it didn't go over so well with some stakeholders. And it really is a culmination of working with those stakeholders last session to get the wording right. And like Jessica said, it could go further, and yeah, it could, but I think that what we have here is a good bipartisan solution that a lot of the stakeholders have input on that have made this bill what it is today. And if we take it further down the road, that's for another day. But for today, I would just appreciate consideration for this.
Thank you, Representative Jurgens. And with that, we'll move House File 55 over to be included in an omnibus bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then next we have Representative Huot. You're up. And that's House File 575. And Representative Huot, since you're a member, if you'd like to move your own bill before our committee, you are more than welcome.
Madam Chair, I would.
Thank you. So moved. Now we have Representative Hewitt's bill in front of us and before us for discussion, and it's my intention to also look this over for possible inclusion. So Representative Hewitt, would you like to proceed?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, this bill is a very simple bill. Many of us have this own problem in our home when we have leftover medications that sit there forever and we wonder what to do with them. Well, unlike like us, the school has a bigger problem because they have many bottles of medications that parents bring in that they have no way to really get rid of. This bill will allow them to dispose of them and also get assistance on doing that. I'm going to let the two nurses, the wonderful nurses that are here today, I have to say that because my wife is a nurse. She's listening. So basically, I want them to kind of explain where they're coming from on this bill and let them give you their story.
Thank you, Representative Hewitt. Could you please state your name for the record and proceed?
My name is Susan Knuckleby. I am a school nurse at West Education Center, which is a part of District 287. Thank you, Madam Chair Joachim, and the members of the committee for listening to us. I have been a school nurse for quite a while, and I've been in many different schools. I'm also the past president of the School Nurse Organization of Minnesota and a member of the Legislative Committee. As being in many different schools, every school I've gone into, I found a stockpile of medications that the previous nurse didn't know what to do with, and there's always that paper bag somewhere of medications that they haven't figured out what to do with. When I worked in the hospital, they had procedures, they had ways to get rid of medication, but we are school nurses working in an educational system. So disposal of medications hasn't been the top of their priority, and often I don't think they know what we face when we look at them. School nurses try to be safe and ethical as we can, but we want to solve this problem for other school nurses throughout the state. And then I'll let my coworker speak.
Thank you, Ms. Knuckleby. Could you please state your name for the record and proceed?
Madam Chair Joachim and Representative Hewitt and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to testify in support of this bill. My name is Molly Forrest, and I'm a licensed school nurse at North Education Center in Intermediate District 287 and a representative of the School Nurse Organization of Minnesota. You're likely all familiar with my district and Superintendent Lewandowski, who has spent a fair amount of her time herself in front of this committee and the larger legislature. And I know some of you recently attended the Legislative Summit held in my building to discuss childhood trauma and mental health. The mental health care of my approximately 200 students is my biggest concern and my biggest job. Going hand in hand with the interventions and programs happening in our classrooms, such as the therapeutic teaching model that some of you learned about, is that of medication management. I see about a quarter of the special education students in our building for medication administration on a daily basis. I work with families and providers to ensure that students have the most appropriate medication regimen through ongoing feedback and suggestions. What that means in practice, though, is the constant adjustment of medications and dosage, and for me, an expanding drawer full of prescriptions no longer being administered. I did a quick count in my office yesterday, and at this moment in the school year, I have 49 bottles of medications that are no longer being used and have not been picked up by the family. Experience has shown me that this number will only grow despite repeated attempts to have parents or legal guardians retrieve the medications. Our families have a number of reasons that they may not do this, ranging from transportation problems to safety concerns for themselves or other family members with extraneous medication available in the household. We as nurses want to honor these concerns and not create new obstacles for our families, and so we keep the medications at school where we know they will be safe. In past years at 287, we had an employee who was also a member of law enforcement retrieve and transport our medications for proper disposal. That employee is no longer with the district, so we are unsure at this time what our new procedure will be. If the bill in front of us were to pass, myself or another designated district employee would be able to transport 2/3 or more of what I have for disposal without relying on families or local law enforcement. Just as I know the mental health needs I see in my own students is not unique, neither is the issue at hand. Our organization has heard from nurses across the state that this is an ongoing problem and that those locked drawers and cabinets of unused medications are getting fuller and fuller. Support of this bill will alleviate at least some of the burden on all parties, families, districts, and the licensed school nurses they employ, and law enforcement, while still ensuring proper disposal. So thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, for your time and consideration of this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Forrest. I think we'll go to member questions right now. Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the school nurse, great presentation. This is a great bill, too. I support this. My question is, during the National Take-Back Days, do I understand it correctly that the schools can't touch whether it's controlled or not? Because I sometimes see nursing home folks bring in bags of it. Maybe they're just trying to clean it out without knowing it. Maybe your rules are different. I just maybe want to help me understand the difference of those actions that I've seen when I've attended for several hours at a time, the take-back days, and all the meds that are coming back from basically institutions like that. And what's the difference, if there's a difference there, if you could explain that to me?
Who would like to take that question? Ms. Neckleby?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair and Representative. I don't know what the nursing home procedures are. I do know what the school procedures are. And my understanding is that for us, that we can't transport medications without something like this bill, because those drop boxes are really meant for families and family members to bring back medications that are used in the homes. They're not for institutions. So I'm not being judgmental about nursing homes, but that's the reality of it. And we also cannot transport controlled substances.
Thank you, Ms. Neckleby. Representative Baker? Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Forgot there was a list going. Representative Moeller.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I support this too. I just had a quick sort of technical question. So when it first mentions controlled substance on line 1.17, it doesn't refer to the definition of controlled substance, which is in 152.01. But then when you look at line 2.13, it first does that. And I'm just wondering if we need that clarification up front that we're talking about controlled substances as they're defined by 152, just to make clear.
Representative Huot.
Madam Chair, Representative Mueller, yes, we'll send this to make sure we get the correction done. Thank you for the.
Thank you.
And I'm so sorry, Representative Scott, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I had a question for the bill's author. Representative Huot, is this your first bill before this committee?
They're in the car. After I get done, I'll get them. Sorry, Madam Chair, they're in the car.
I will forgive you this time, Representative.
That's the only question I had.
Thank you, Representative Scott.
We have to keep our priorities around here.
Yeah, people are feeling a little peckish because it's almost 3 okay. So any other questions to the bill or the author? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify? All right, seeing none, I will renew my motion to lay over House File 5. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right spot. House File 575 for possible inclusion. Thank you so much and drive home safe. All right, next before us is House File 576 Representative Kunesh-Podein, if you'd like to move up to the testifiers table. And once you get back there, up there, you can move your own bill.
There you go.
Representative Kunesh-Podein, would you like to move your bill before the committee?
I so move it.
So, members, we have House File 576 before the committee. It is my intention that this bill should move on to Ways and Means after this. So that will be the motion. Would you like to go ahead and proceed with your testimony?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. This bill is a bill that would require school districts to pay the cost for a student in grades 11 or 12 to take the ACT or SAT one time. The current law requires such payment only for students eligible for free and reduced lunches or meals, and we would like to expand that to give everybody that opportunity, whether they are eligible for that free and reduced lunch. The legislature did at one time, or the state at one time did pay that fee for all students, and it was retracted and limited to just the free and reduced. And again, much like the bill that we heard about bringing back the driver's license in the schools, this would again remove any barriers for people that are just, right at the edge or don't quite qualify for those free and reduced lunches, and allow those who wanted to take those tests to take them in school. And part of that is that it eliminates having to find transportation on a weekend, find a location to do it, the hassle or the insecurity of how to apply for this, to take this test. It would also allow schools to do it during the school day. Some of the districts do it as a entire class, taking the test for the day. And I would like to make this available to everyone.
Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. Did you have a testifier?
Here we go.
Yes, wonderful. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Susan Knutson, and I've been in public education for 24 years, and 18 of those years as a licensed school counselor. I work at Eden Valley Watkins Schools, which is in rural Minnesota. We believe that taking a college entrance exam should never be a barrier into post-secondary education. Offering an exam such as the ACT during the school day within the district of attendance and with familiar faces limits the barrier to accessibility. Without House File 576, students at Eden Valley would be required to drive from 35 to 65 miles to take the test on a Saturday in a strange location. One Eden Valley graduate planned to take the ACT, registered with a fee waiver, and drove to a testing site, but never entered the building because he was unsure of which door to go in and didn't know how to get his question answered. That was a barrier to his success. With the increase in adolescent mental health issues, many of which do not qualify for ACT accommodations, it's invaluable to allow students the opportunity to test within their own district during a school day, proctored by faces they're familiar with. Having the ability to support those students during the entire process, from registration to test day and to finally score interpretation, alleviates the complication of mental health disabilities. Currently, we're able to provide EVW students with local accommodations that don't need ACT approval. For example, we're able to plan with a student on a 504 who has testing anxiety, and that wouldn't qualify for a 504 accommodation necessarily. And so we're able to plan with them. We can actually talk with them about where they want to sit in the testing room. We can practice the procedures for the day. And we can walk her through the process of the day, and in that morning actually practice calming strategies with that student so that they're prepared for the test. Funding a college entrance exam for all students eliminates the socioeconomic barrier associated with secondary education. In state-funded 2015, 93% of EVW students took the ACT test. And last year, our district funded half of the test for the students, and we decreased to 72% of the students taking the test. I'm confident that with the elimination of the district support of 50%, we would be back down to our 57% participation rate. I could tell story after story of EVW students that would not have tested due to the excess burden of the $60+ registration requirement. And it's ridiculous to assume that this fee is only an issue for those that qualify and complete the burdensome FRE application. Lastly, funding House File 576 will ensure that a district can comply with 3 of the 5 World Best Workforce statutes that we're required to do. Number 1, it eliminates all racial and economic achievement gaps between students, which is a World Best Workforce goal. Number 2, all students are ready for career in college, also our very own World's Best Workforce goal. And all students will graduate from high school, which is also part of the World's Best Workforce plan. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. And thank you for making decisions in the best interest of our students and districts in the state across the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Ms. Knudsen. I also see somebody else. Did you want to testify as well? Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Madam Chair, members, Josh Downham with the Minneapolis Public Schools. Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein, for bringing this bill forward. This is a piece of our legislative platform in Minneapolis schools for two additional reasons. I think the previous testifier covered many of the issues. I'm just going to add 2 pieces. Over the past 2 years in the Minneapolis schools, our free and reduced lunch rate has dropped by 5%. You would think that would be something to celebrate, and in some cases it is. But there are a number of families, because of concerns for their status, are not actually claiming lunch, free and reduced lunch. So these students who otherwise would be eligible under current law for this are no longer able to access this unless the school district steps up and pays for this. And I can tell you just the number of, in certain sites where we have the highest percentage of students who are English language learners, that's where we're seeing our biggest drops. And then the last piece is really about the equity and transportation. If these are held off-site, we see a significant number of students drop because they don't have access to that. So with that, I'll appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Donnell, and thank you for driving down Ms. Knudsen. I hope you get home safely. I'm going to open it up to member testimony. Questions, Representative Erdal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Knudsen, is there much snow out there?
Oh, well, I'm lucky my mom lives in Maple Grove, so I got to stay at her house last night.
See,
Representative Erdal, follow up.
thank you, Madam Chair. You see, Eden Valley Watkins is in my district. That's why I'm concerned.
You want to know how much you have to shovel this weekend, huh?
But I will say that Eden Valley Watkins is an exceptional school district, and they have a very fine record over the years, thanks to instructors like Ms. Knudsen, and look forward to seeing their continued success.
Thank you, Representative Erdal. Any other questions, Representative Erickson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I hate to ask Ms. Parrott this question because I don't think she wrote this paragraph, but on 3.19E, paragraph E, I think the paragraph is rather confusing in light of the fact that students are encouraged, and then on line 3.23, a student must be able to take the exam under this paragraph at the student's high school during the school day and at any one of the multiple exam administrations available to students in the district. I think that's a little confusing.
Ms. Parent?
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, yes, I think this language, I'm not sure how long that language has been around. I think it does precede, but yes, starting off with an encouragement and then following up with the must for students. I think can.
Well, Madam Chair, thank you. The students are encouraged and they must be able to take the exam. I think Ms. Pera will fix that language if it's necessary. I know she didn't write this.
Thank you, Representative
And she's
Erickson.
an excellent composer, so I know she'll fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Erickson, and I'll make sure Representative Kunesh-Podein looks at that and works with Ms. Pera as well. We can maybe clean up that old language that's in the underlying statute. Representative Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Just looking at the bill, and maybe I missed it, but it doesn't seem like it has a fiscal note listed in it at this time. Is that correct?
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
At this time, there is not a fiscal note. In the past, wait a minute.
I know this is a policy committee, so
Hang on.
you probably go to Ed.
I think there has been a request for 3 million, 1.5 for the first year and 1.5 in the past, because that's approximately what the state has paid for in the past, and that's what they're expecting.
I think I'll kick this over to Mr. Strom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Kunesh-Podein and Representative Gruenhagen. Yes, there is a fiscal note in the works for this bill, but Emily Adrians, our fiscal analyst, has estimated the cost would bounce back to about where it was before this change, which would, as was said, would be about $1.5 million per year.
Representative Gruenhagen, follow
Oh,
up.
thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, if we're going to pay for everybody, is the way I understand it, then is there any advantage or wording that we might negotiate a discount with the ACT or, the testing company, since the state is going to pay for everything? One of the things I notice is that when government pays for something or is mandated, a lot of times the price goes up for some reason. But, maybe if we're going to pay for everything, maybe we could get some type of volume discount, or what are your thoughts on that?
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That would be a wonderful negotiation. As I was doing my research on this, the cost of that ACT or SAT bill or fee was really within just $1 or cents of other states. So it seems like it's pretty much comparable across the board. But I'm sure that if Minnesota started that, again, other states would probably follow that. It would set a precedence. And I guess that would be something that would be a good idea to look at.
Representative Mariani.
Madam Chair, very quickly, this is actually a little painful for me, because several years ago we made a very strong play relative to the ACTs and SATs in terms of working to align what our schools were doing to be consistently applicable for college readiness. And obviously we're talking about nationally normed tests here that are used by a number of higher ed institutions to basically confer access. And we did have a universal approach. And we unfortunately backed out of that. Now, that's a long story. I can tell you that teachers were awfully excited about the fact that we were making this, at that time, universally available. And part of what they were excited about is that they were looking at, even though imperfect, ACTs and SATs as much more relevant relative to the MCAs at that time. I don't know what the status of that is now. That's a longer conversation, I suppose, with the Department of Ed. But maybe my quick question for my good friend, Mr. Downham from Minneapolis Schools, is whether or not the school district, your school district, is using ACT and SAT content level knowledge to shape what your school district offers and what it expects and how it assesses your students.
Representative O'Donnell. I just demoted you. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Donnell.
Madam Chair, Representative Mariani, I would certainly have to get back to you on the specifics. I do know, just because I have a daughter who recently graduated from Minneapolis Public Schools, that the content at her school was very well aligned, but also that the getting to the MCA piece, students look forward and they see the MCA looking back and thinking about their futures. So let me get more detail about the actual content piece that you requested, but certainly to your earlier point, that's something that at least my daughter was looking at.
Representative Mariani, follow-up?
And Madam Chair, just, briefly, when we crafted that policy years ago, we partly adopted the same understanding. Why not look, to use your phrase, why not use a very forward-looking, assessment that colleges themselves are using. Colleges at that point weren't particularly interested in our MCAs. That maybe has changed. I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation at another time relative to the department. But that design that we had back then wasn't even based on a single point in time with the ACT and SAT. We were looking at a series of assessments related to the ACTs and SATs that would begin in 7th or 8th grade. That then what we were doing is using these assessments as additional guides for students to begin early to align their own expectations and course choices relative to college readiness. So really trying to push rigor here. So I just would invite you, Madam Chair, and the committee at some point to think about how to avail ourselves of these kind of instruments to at very least help drive rigor in terms of expectations of families and students, but also in terms of our institutions. I am supportive, however, on a whole nother point about providing universal access to these nationally normed college entrance exams, because I think that sends a real strong message of what our expectations are, for our entire student population relative to rigor and good career planning.
Thank you, Representative Marin. And you've kind of kicked off one of the issue areas I'd like this committee to dig down into next year, and that's testing and our standards, and when we have a longer policy year to really dive a little bit deeper than we have in the past. So thank you. Is there any other questions at the table? Anybody in the audience that would like to testify? Representative Kunesh-Podein, final words.
Well, I'd like to thank the testifiers for coming out on this snowy day, and thank the members for listening to this and ask for your support and support for our students.
Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. I renew my motion that House File 576 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails. The bill is referred to the Ways and Means Committee. All right, let's move ahead and have Representative Erickson bring up House File 20.
Madam Chair, I'll move House File 20, and the action will be up to you, but I imagine it would be included in a possible omnibus bill.
Yes, thank you, Representative Erickson. This will be moved to be included into a possible omnibus bill. Would you like to proceed with your testimony?
Madam Chair and members, this was a request from the reviser last year that because we no longer have vocational schools primarily in the intermediate section of law, that we move the intermediates into the education code. They're presently in Chapter 136D, which is a part of higher education. So now we're moving them to the education code. So that would be in 123C. The sections that authorize an intermediate district to issue bonds would remain in Chapter 136D. However, they have that. They can issue bonds for up to 30 years, by the way. So just a little history, because Representative Carlson is not here. because I knew that he would bring this up, even though this happened before he started serving. But the intermediate districts were created, I believe, in 1967 and then later amended in 1969, I think a couple of times, because then they moved to more of an integrated service with post-secondary so that adults and special education and other authorized services could be included in intermediates. And as you know from testimony that we have, and even today, that we have some intermediates today that do really fantastic work in addressing special needs for our children. So we have in statute Intermediate District 287, which would be Hennepin and Wright counties and districts found within them. We have also District 288, which I believe is probably the latest. Yes, we did that in 2015, added in Intermediate District 288, which consists of school districts in Carver, LeSueur, and Scott counties. Then we have 916, which many of you know about because that's Anoka, Ramsey, and Washington counties. And then we have Dakota, 917. Which is a variety of school districts numbered in that area of the 190s. And that we labeled, and we do the labeling, I guess, 917. So, Madam Chair and members, this is really technical, moving, as I said at the beginning, the statute that now has intermediate schools in 136 into one, let's see. Did I misspeak here? Yeah, the reviser's instructions are to move these to new sections, which you can see on page 2. So from 136D.01 to 123C.01, and you can see all the following listed there. So with that, Madam Chair, I hope we can approve this because we should have done this last year under the reviser's instruction. Really, the reviser can do it on their own, but they had asked that we do some legislative work. So that's why House File 20 exists.
I want to thank you, Representative Erickson, for bringing this up. And this is also a nice segue into, as we're thinking of policy issues for next year, if there's other cleanup language folks can find, I know the revisers would greatly appreciate it, and something for us to do next year again, too. But are there any member questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wish to testify? Then I will renew my motion to lay House File 20 over for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you. And then Representative Kunesh-Podein. Sorry, we do have time for your bill today. Everybody's been a little quiet, so we'll move on to House File 209. And Representative Kunesh-Podein, would you like to move your bill before the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to move House File 209.
Thank you. We have 209 before us. Would you like to proceed with your testimony?
Sure. So this bill requires school districts to report on expenditures for testing materials. And those testing materials are defined as tests, pre-tests, or prepackaged lessons that include a test or a pre-test. The bill also requires the Commissioner of Education to report to the educators on district's expenditures on testing materials. And this bill will go into effect in the 2020 and 21 school year and later. As a teacher myself, I'm a library media specialist when I'm not here at the legislature. And when I was at the elementary level, I was also given the role of testing coordinator. And that was a really, really tough job for a number of years when there was so many tests on top of a test on top of test. And by the end of the school year, especially when it became MCA time, students were just exhausted, and they were disinterested, they were disengaged, not doing their best on the MCA tests, which we all know is how we look at the competency of our schools and our teachers. And so this bill would ask the school districts to really look at their testing practices and their procedures. And not only that, but look at how much they're spending on testing. And it's not just the cost of giving a kid a test, you know, an online test or a prepackaged test like the MCAs or MAP testing, but it's also the amount of time that teachers are expected to sort of teach to the test or do all these pre-tests and collect data and store data and share data as well. So there's a lot of teacher time that goes into it, and teacher time is money. And it's also time that is lost from actual instruction or productivity in the classroom for the student. And so this bill would really, what we'd really like to do is ask schools to pause, districts to pause, look at the testing that they're doing, looking at how much money they are spending on those tests. Are those monies maybe better spent in different ways? So if we're not testing so much, if we're not prepping for these tests so much, would the monies now go towards perhaps more teachers in the building, more educational assistants, other alternatives to trying to dangle this carrot in front of our students, hoping that they're going to get this magic number that's going to show what great teachers and districts that we have. One of the things I found when I was doing my research is this evaluation report. You'll find this in your packet. And I just took out certain pages from it. I didn't print the whole thing. But it's a standardized student testing 2017 evaluation report done by the Office of the Legislative Auditor. And if you just go to the first page, there's the members of the Legislative Audit Committee. There's a letter that states that every year we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and students' time to meet the federal and state requirements, and that the Minnesota Department of Education uses these outside vendors to develop, distribute, and score these tests. Often I would say that the teachers really have a better indicator of how their students are performing. Sometimes when you give a student an important test on a specific day, they don't perform well. When you know any other day, they would just, you know, be able to do that. And then if you would turn to the summary page, that first page, I'd like to just point out a few things on here. There's a lot of good information here in this booklet. So I didn't print the whole thing, but you certainly could go online or ask for this pamphlet. But if you go down to the bottom of the first column, there's a point where it says, the very last point says, administering state-required standardized tests strain the resources of many school districts and charter schools. MDE does not systematically measure the local costs and impacts of state testing and requirement. And that would be something that I would ask school districts to reflect on and perhaps think about how you can better use your time. If you go up to the top of the next column, the very first point, it says, the use of test scores at the local level varies widely. Many principals and teachers do not feel prepared to interpret much of the testing data reported by MDE. The results of these tests are generally pretty quick now. Everything's online. It used to be paper and pen, and you'd have to, it was this whole super secret or secure, you had to keep it locked up, and no kid could leave the room till everybody was done and that sort of thing. And so it would take a long time turning it in, getting it graded, and getting the results. And now it's much more easy to interpret the testing data, but the problem is that so often teachers have not been given the professional development or the instruction on how to really dig deep and get the data that is really, really important. So they're having these kids take these tests. And of course, we take the MCAs at the end of the school year, and now the next year in the fall, when the student comes back, the next year's teacher needs to drill down and look at those scores. And I can speak from experience that we often did not have the time or really the knowledge of how to do that. And I think that's one of the things that we need to look at when we are doing standardized testing is how are we using that information? And if we're not really using it, then let's not do it, and let's not spend the money on that. The next point says some legislative mandates regarding test design and test scores are too prescriptive and have unintended consequences. So again, I think this is one of those items where I would really like to hear from districts, myself, and superintendents on really and truly what is the reason that we are doing this. The next point points out that most school districts and charter schools administered other standardized tests in addition to the MCAs and access testing. And as I said, in the school district that I was at, there was three times a year students took the MAP test. And it's not just one test. You have a reading test and you have a math test, and then there are other tests in between, especially with access. And these tests, again, are computerized. Fortunately, most of the schools that in this day and age have access to computer labs. But for me, when I had to facilitate these tests, they had to come into the computer lab in the library, which meant, number one, my classes as a library media specialist, I taught all the technology classes, kindergarten through 5th grade. So now my lab is no longer available. I'm no longer available because I have to administer the tests. And this went on for weeks and weeks as you try to schedule students to take these tests. Now, imagine that these tests are right now. And we've lost how many days of school? So the days of lost instruction on the college prep, the course prep, the test prep, the actual prep, taking of the test, and then the loss of access to, say, the library and the technology classes that students were supposed to have is pretty significant. And then I just want you to look at those key recommendations. This evaluation from the Office of the Legislative Auditor recommended that MDE should gather information from the school district and charter schools on the local costs and impacts of administering state mandated tests, to use those data to inform policy decisions. And I would also add that they should include teachers and the leadership within the school district when they are making those decisions. Because again, we can sit here and you can all sit here and make these decisions, but if you've never experienced that, if you've never seen a kid meltdown or freak out from a test, from the test anxiety. If you've ever seen the frustration of teachers because of all the lost time and now they're supposed to be able to bring these kids back up to speed, it's really important that we include the teachers and the folks that are really boots on the ground in these decisions. The next recommendation is that MDE should further increase outreach and support to school districts and charter schools regarding the interpretation and the use of the test scores. So what are we doing with these scores? What are we doing with this data? At the elementary school, again, that I taught at, for a while there, it was just data. It was totally data-driven. When at one point in our school, there was a lot of movement between classroom for different classes, to science or social studies or whatever the case may be. And every time that kid entered or another subject started, the teachers had to give a pre-test. And so the student would come in and there would be like some questions that the student had to sit down and answer those questions. And then there'd be the lesson, and then there'd be the post-test. And it was, just to check learning and understanding and that sort of thing, which, makes sense. But when you think about it, if a student has like 4 different classes a day, let's say they take it, the first pre-test takes 10 minutes, the post-test takes 10 minutes, that's 20 minutes out of their class schedule. And then the teacher has to go and take the results and collect them. And maybe she's seeing 3 or 4 classes a day for each one of these. And then they have to put it into some kind of a document to track the data. And then that teacher would have to meet once a week for their PLC, their professional learning community. And all it was data, data, data. And it was no time for really working with your team on what are the things that we're planning on, how are we working, what's the best interest that we can work with these students. And it was really basically ability grouping at that point and looking at which students were were going to be able to move up to that next cell, as they call it, which students needed some extra help. But in the long run, there were oftentimes were not the resources or the time to really apply whatever the issues were with that student. And so long story short, it's an incredible waste of time, and I felt an useful way of money. And then the last recommendation here on this page is that the legislature should remove or re-examine certain legal requirements that prescribe specific test designs or reporting formats, and instead focus on setting priorities for the test overall. Especially with the MCA, it's very prescribed. I would have to go into each classroom and I'd have to look in every classroom and make sure there were no posters up, that there was nothing there that would give a kid a clue to an answer or anything like that. It was kids sit in their desk, they couldn't do anything once they finished. MD, we were always threatened that MDE would come and look in your window, and if the teacher wasn't moving around or if things were happening that they didn't prescribe, there would be severe consequences. But we also didn't always have specific environmental control for students unless they had specific IEPs. So if a student didn't have some kind of a IEP or special treatment for, let's say anxiety, or they were just, they were very physical or couldn't sit still for long and that sort of thing. There weren't a lot of other things that we could do to make it more comfortable for that student. And so I would love it if you would take time to look through the rest of this summary. There's a lot of ideas and suggestions about what we could do better for our testing in Minnesota. I guess, it really comes down to why are we doing all this testing and why are districts doing all this testing and what are they doing with the data. This is a multi-million dollar expense for schools. And again, as somebody that has lived it, that has facilitated it, I would suggest that perhaps some of those monies would be better to put the boots on the ground and have the teachers there that are working with the student on direct instruction and facilitating the kind of curriculum that really creates a well-rounded student.
Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. I think we have some questions for you. So, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. Just a question, kind of clarify some language here. As we know, a lot of the curriculum that districts purchase and textbooks come with prepackaged or different kinds of assessments. Mm-hmm. But many times districts don't use those particular ones. Would those be exempt, or would they have to report on those too? Because technically they are purchased, but to me, if they're not using them, they probably shouldn't be reporting that because it came in a package deal with the curriculum. What are your thoughts on that, or how does your language affect that?
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Bennett. If they're not using that particular pre-test that comes with the package, then that's not something that they would report. If they were doing something similar, but something that maybe the teacher had created that was more pertinent to what the lesson was or the theme, then that would be something that we would hope they would report.
Representative Bennett, follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when I read this, I don't see that in here, and it might be something that you could clarify further. Just if I'm reading this, it's anything that the district spends for expenditures by educational site for testing materials. So perhaps you could consider having some language that would exempt those things purchased that they don't use. You know, for example, if it came with packaged curriculum. Does that make sense?
Representative Kunesh-Podein, or maybe also, the language is really broad on that first 1.7, 1.8. I know I've heard some concerns about that too. Are you talking about testing material just for standardized tests like the MCAs? Or are you talking about testing material of like a history book that has tests in it? So I think some people have, is that what, Representative Bennett, is that what you're trying to get at?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is correct. You know, in a lot of elementary elementary curriculum comes with a lot of assessments that we just never use.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we spent on them, yes. So correct, Madam.
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think that I would agree that we should probably tighten up some of this this information and be more specific about what the expectations are.
Thank you. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my question as well, so thank you.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the author of this, again, I think we're in a period of time right now where we're looking at our testing and it's too much, and I think the report is actually quite well done, and I'm glad that you're open to maybe looking at some other language. But the thing I keep thinking of this bill that makes me a little bit of some heartburn is every summer we go to our annual Minnesota School Board Association meetings, and they hold up a list of things that we brought to them that are unfunded mandates. Mm-hmm. And I listen to them. I see them all the time, and they're friends, and we have to listen to that, and it's important. So my question is, I support this bill. Can we tighten these things up so in 20 years we're not doing the same kind of report where we can put maybe this is a 2 or 3 year deal or a 1 year deal, but right now this goes from 2021 school year and later, so there's really no sunset on this. I'm just curious if we could look at some kind of a tightening of this so that we can look at a year or two, stop, let's see what we're doing, and then not have that continue on with that list, because it just keeps getting longer and longer, and I always have the look of shame in those meetings when we do too much of this. So I offer that as a suggestion for when you tweak the bill.
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Baker. Yes, I do have to admit that I did not originally write this bill. It came from the Senate as such, and I have had conversations with our friends over there. And I do understand that there is a cost to asking school districts to create a report, or even MD to create a report and then track it. I also have done a lot of surveys and online reports, and I think it could be done in a very fiscally conservative way that would allow school districts and teachers to report the information that we're looking for over time, and so it's not sit down and just spend a whole 3 days putting together data and collecting it. I think there would be a way that we could systematically collect it over the process of a school year, and then perhaps compare it the next year, whether if it's the same or different, in order to kind of compare those 2 years. But yes, I think there's plenty of room for improvement in this, and I think what's important here is that we're at least starting to look at it and talk about it, and look at or ask the question, are our funds that we are putting into our educational system, our school districts, really using those monies to the best of the ability?
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could Ms. Paris cite 120B.301, which is what we enacted a few years ago about limits on testing?
Oh, yeah.
Would you please summarize that for us, Ms. Para?
Ms. Para, whenever you get there.
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, yes. Section 120B301 limits the amount of time that students would take depending on the grade band. So for students in grades 1 through 6, they wouldn't spend more than 10 hours per school year on locally adopted district-wide or school-wide assessments. For students in grades 7 through 12, that's 11 hours per school year. That doesn't include IB or AP exams. There's an exception if the district or charter school has an agreement with the exclusive representative of the teachers not to exceed a different time limit. Not to exceed that time limit, and includes that information in the world's best workforce report. This section also includes a requirement that the district or charter publish on its website a calendar of standardized tests that will be administered during the school year.
Thank you, Representative.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Para, because we did put limitations on the amount of time that students test. And I think when we were calculating it, we thought about 1%. But members and Madam Chair, I think we have to be careful that we don't demean testing or data because testing is what we do throughout our lives. We're tested to ensure that we've learned. Now, testing can occur in a variety of ways. It's true, it doesn't always have to be on the computer, or paper and pencil, but testing is a way to gather data to know whether or not a child has learned. And I know that I sat in many meetings with my fellow colleagues on the English staff at Princeton High School reviewing data, and we were forming strategies as to how to change our teaching, perhaps of composition or of speech or of various types of literature. And we reviewed that data frequently to decide whether our high school students were getting the proper instruction for getting ready for college or vocation or military or going out into the work world. So I get a little nervous when and this is an unfunded mandate, of course, when I hear this negativity toward testing. It is a federal mandate. It is a state mandate until we change something locally from the MCAs, which, by the way, are aligned with our standards, and we are standards-based in law. It's a federal requirement, and it's in state law as well. So I think we should tread lightly as we move in this direction of demeaning testing and thinking that all our students ever do is test, because if that is what happens, then the fault lies with us teachers, not with the testing company or with our administrators, because we are the ones checking for understanding, so it is something incumbent upon us. But I know that good teachers know when to test, and they test in a variety of ways, and they study the data. So I just have to say that as a teacher, that I think we have a profession that understands how we check understanding and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Erickson. Representative Kunesh-Podein, any comments?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. In all due respect, I do understand and value the use of testing and reviewing and looking at information in order to form best practices when it comes to teaching. But when we look at those limits to testing, I know that many school districts are not following that, or they might look at the paid-for testing that they're taking, such as MCAs. But I can tell you, when you're taking the MAP testing 3 times a year, right there, you're probably well in advance of 3, 6, 9 hours or more right there. And I would just like to also remind this group of this committee that, I'm coming fresh out of the classroom. I have seen it. I see it every day. The expectation from the districts coming down to the teachers, and the expectation that you will provide this kind of data quite often and quite frequently. So while we might put limitations on testing in legislature, you know, I don't know that there's any consequences that we've put in place if that were to be different. But this bill would also be able to look at that and confirm either way if schools and school districts are staying within those parameters that we've set, or if they have taken advantage of different ways to assess the students. And I do realize that it's important to collect data and to use data-driven instruction when it comes to our students, especially for individualized learning. But having been there and seen that in the last 20 years, I do have to say that the rise of testing is really detrimental to the learning of our students.
Representative Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. I'll get that sooner or later. Hey, thanks for being a teacher, by the way. I have a lot of respect for teachers. I have been on the school board. It's some of the hardest working and dedicated people that I know. I try to make their life easier in some ways, but I was a strong advocate of testing. In fact, while I was on the school board, the state implemented the 8th grade reading and math test. Now, which we know was not necessarily endorsed by a lot of school districts. However, when I read this OLA report, I don't see that they want to eliminate testing. I see they think it can be tightened up as far as the requirements. Would you agree with that?
Representative Kunesh-Podein.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Representative Gruenhagen, follow up?
Oh, yeah, just a follow-up comment. You know, when I was on the school board, like I said, I was a strong advocate for testing. And I used to have, you know, if I had this conversation once, I had it 100 times. They'd say, Glenn, what good does it do to memorize information, spit it out on a test, and then forget it the next day? And I used to think, yeah, what good does that do? I know it made me real miserable during my education years. But I finally read a paper by I can't remember his name right now, by an individual with a doctorate in the educational field. And he said the good it does is this, is that when you take information and memorize it and then put it out accurately, it develops an intellectual habit of taking information in accurately and putting it out accurately. And one of the complaints that connected this for me from our business community in Glencoe at the time when I was on the school board, which I'm a part of, they said, we have high school graduates who cannot follow simple instructions. And according to this paper I read, that's what a student needs to develop, an intellectual, and some develop it quickly, others need more time, but they need to develop an intellectual habit of taking in information accurately, processing it, and then putting it out accurately. And that's called rote learning and memorization, okay? It exercises the senses and your brain. And that seems to be the missing link in a lot of the, oh, that's an evolutionary term, I don't want to use that. A missing ingredient.
Representative Gruenhagen, it's called executive function. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Get to your point, please.
We're in agreement. It's the missing ingredient in so many of our students. They seem to be graduating and yet not follow simple instructions. So practice does make perfect. And learning, which I wasn't a great student, and testing was miserable for me, okay? And I crammed and then tried to do the best I could. But it helped me develop that technique. And again, some students develop very quickly, others need more time. But we all need to develop that technique. It's a good skill to develop if we want to live productive lives. So please don't eliminate the testing. Thank you.
Representative Kunesh-Podein, I
Right
don't
now.
have any more member questions, but I was going to quick open it up to see if there's anybody in the audience that would like to testify on this bill. And I see some movement. And Ms. Dietrich, would you like to come down, please?
May I just make one comment?
Oh, yes, Representative Kunesh-Podein.
So I'm not looking to eliminate testing.
I recognize the value of it, for myself personally, as well as the necessity in academics. I would just like our state and our school districts to be a little more reflective about how they're using it, why they're using it, and if they're spending it well enough.
Thank you. Ms. Dietrich, state your name for the record, please, and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Denise Dietrich, and I'm with the Minnesota School Boards Association. And we definitely want to thank Representative Kunesh-Podein to be advancing the discussion of testing in our schools. I think that we are all in agreement and that there is too much testing going on when you start layering federal, state, local, and then teacher-initiated. What we would just like to point out a couple of things, though, about the legislation. And that, first of all, is that when you start measuring these things, there is no quality associated to this measurement. And some of the testing, to some people's comments, may be really good testing, and it may get really good outcomes. And then, second of all, what I would like to point out is that as many others have on line 1.7 and 1.8, this definition is very broad. And I would wonder if you wouldn't want the way that this reads, this would also include things like FIED testing, music testing, those types of things. And once again, you have to ask yourself the question, is it just because the word testing has gotten such a negative connotation and it doesn't qualify good testing and bad testing? And I think that when teachers or administrators then are measuring this testing, I think it would actually get really subjective because I would, if you really wanted to be literal, how many activities in the school does not contribute to some sort of a test eventually? So once again, and this would be considered an unfunded mandate. And I would just like to point out one thing. If we are truly interested in reducing the testing, there have been many work groups. There has been previous legislation passed, and we would strongly encourage this committee and others to look at some of the good options that have been already suggested, and that would be things like substituting a nationally normed test in the high school instead of the MCA. Or I think the governor also has a really good discussion going on eliminating above grade level and lower grade level in testing as well. And that would definitely substantially reduce the time spent on the MCAs. So we would prefer much more of a focused approach as to what are we trying to eliminate and what would be the benefit to that. So with that, I will conclude my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Dietrich. Mr. Heller, if you come up, you can, if you have to testify on House File 209. Thank you. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Committee on Policy. My name is in House Policy on the 20th of February. My name is Rick Heller. Unofficially represent the twice exceptional people with print disabilities. Just to dovetail a little bit off of what the last testifier expressed, the National Center for Education Outcome, University of Minnesota is the only clearinghouse state of Minnesota that looks at principle of universal design for assessments. Invite them. In 2009, they wanted it in a bill. That omnibus bill did not pass. Until you implement universal design principles for these assessments in a meaningful way, and they would be the ones, they're the clearinghouse on a national level, they were designated in 2004 in the IDEA Act, be a relevant piece. About this 10-hour rule, I don't know how special ed fits in there, but they allowed extra time on assessments because of how they process information. The state doesn't allow read out loud on assessments, especially only on reading. At some point, we have to decide if they're taking the materials home and access to the printed word with readers, at what point do we allow them that they have fairness and sameness as it relates to the assessments? At some point, we're checking their cognitive level. There's 4 different thinking levels based on web textology learning. obviously, we all want them to get a level 3, but 4 would be the superior level. If you're familiar with the Achieve and Diploma Project, the colleges and universities got together with business people in 2005, and they said, we got people in colleges that know, but they can't demonstrate, they can't do it. So that's when we got the Common Core Language Arts Standards. School districts currently are required to report that to the Ministry of Education, but there's no teeth in the law. When we look at text complexity, and if you know about this, but when we switched from degree of power reading to Lexile, which is more based on informational text, we went up 3 cognitive loads or 3 grade levels, because the Minnesota comprehensive assessments weren't currently aligned, meaning kids anywhere between maybe 40 to some % of students who need remediation or developmental classes to be exposed to the printed word. They likely did not.
Mr. Haller, thank you. You've given us a lot of testimony already. We want to stick to the bill, and I just noticed our clock actually stopped, and it's the one I've been looking at.
Okay, so this is what I
to wrap it
suggest,
up,
if I may.
please. Yes.
Implement, put the word in there, universal design for learning. There
Thank you,
go.
Mr. Haller. I don't see anybody else coming forward. I'd also make one quick correction on line 1.11. It should say the Commissioner of Education, so that's something else to look at. Representative Kunesh-Podein, would you like to have some final comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this very lively conversation. I think it's that's really what the importance of this, or the impetus of this is to have a conversation around testing, start talking about it, looking at the value of the testing, and perhaps come up with better methods and better ideas of how to collect the data and how we're using it. So thank you much.
Thank you, Representative Kunesh-Podein. And I will renew my motion to lay House File 209 over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. And then just some quick announcements. We are meeting on Monday, starting at 10 a.m. And I think we have the room until noon. Possibly we have a little longer if we have to. This is our special education day. We have a lot of the bills up from special education. We've been working with the testifiers to try to keep it as concise as possible. Because it's a Monday and we usually have a 24-hour rule. We've been talking with nonpartisan staff here, and we'd like to have them have the language for your amendments by the end of the day on Friday so that they can work on that language and that we can get them posted probably by Sunday night. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that you should email the language to Ms. Para if you have any amendments, because she will be joining us on Ed Finance on a bus down to Wyndham. So please email her the language by Friday at the end of the day, and we will work at getting those posted as soon as we get things taken care of. And for your calendars, I know we sent out an email, but just a reminder, we'll be meeting Tuesday and Wednesday at our normal time on the 26th and 27th. And then on March 1st, starting at 10 a.m., we have a hearing, and we're going to go until about, we have the room until about 3. We can break for lunch for about a half an hour, and all those agendas will be posted soon. So with that, we are adjourned.